The top stories tonight in Y News. The Philippines expects 9.4 billion peso in economic activity as Metro Manila and several areas are priming up for a shift to Alert Level 1 beginning tomorrow.
Maynilad Water Services is set to face a penalty over its unusual and prolonged water service interruptions in the southern part of Metro Manila and in Cavite.
High-level talks between Ukraine and Russia are taking place as Moscow shifts its nuclear forces to a high-alert footing. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, February 28, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Hardin Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am Elsie Marcos.
First in the news, the government's coronavirus task force approved placing the National Capital Region and several areas under the lowest level of restrictions beginning tomorrow, March 1. Malacanang says the downshift will have a positive effect on the economy. Rosa Licos explains why.
Starting tomorrow, reduced restrictions will be implemented in 39 areas as a result of downshift to Alert Level 1, including Metro Manila. According to the palace, at least 9 billion pesos will be added to the economic activity per week due to Alert Level 1 de-escalation. Apart from this, more jobs will be generated.
Ang expectations po natin na additional is 9.4 billion pesos worth in economic activity per week and 170,000 less unemployed individuals in the next 3 months.
Meanwhile, according to acting presidential spokesman Nograles, the shift to Alert Level 1 is possible because of the public's cooperation and sacrifices amid the pandemic. However, he stressed that it is not yet time to celebrate as everyone still needs to be responsible.
We are seeing the same levels of cooperation in other areas and observing the same patterns even in areas that are still under Alert Level 2. And if these are sustained, we are confident that more areas in the country will be placed under Alert Level 1.
Apart from this, the palace official is confident that more areas will be de-escalated to Alert Level 1 if the people will adhere to health protocols and get themselves vaccinated. Under the Alert Level 1, restrictions will be eased, such as allowing 100% operational capacity in mass gatherings, establishments, and public transportation. Face masks should still be worn properly both in indoor or outdoor of private or public establishments. Proof of full vaccination is required for 18 years old and above before entry into indoor establishments or before participating in mass gatherings, including election-related activities. To ensure COVID-19 surge will not happen and for good COVID-19 situation will be sustained, the Duterte administration says everyone must observe the minimum public health standards as well as the guidelines imposed under Alert Level 1. Meanwhile, according to the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, the local government units in the capital have already expressed readiness to implement the existing guidelines of the new normal during the campaign period. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police will deactivate quarantine control checkpoints ahead of the implementation of Alert Level 1 in Metro Manila. However, health protocols like physical distancing and wearing of face masks will still be enforced amid the easing of restrictions. Leia Ilagan explains why.
Intrazonal and interzonal travel shall be allowed without restrictions, regardless of age and comorbidities in areas under Alert Level 1. Quarantine control points are also deactivated. However, checkpoints will remain for anti-criminality campaign operations and implementation of election gun ban. However, according to PNP PIO Chief, Police Brigadier General Roderick Augustos Alba, they will still strictly implement health protocols such as physical distancing and properly wearing a face mask. Alba added, PNP Chief Police General Junardo Carlos directed NCRPO Director Police Major General Vicente Danao Jr. to coordinate with the MMDA and IACT in anticipation of the expected heavy volume of commuter and vehicular traffic in Metro Manila. Beginning tomorrow, March 1 until March 15, Metro Manila will be placed under Alert Level 1. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
An Octa research fellow stressed that the decision to place Metro Manila and several areas under Alert Level 1 is reasonable. However, this does not mean that the pandemic is over. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Today, the Department of Health only records 3 digits of COVID-19 cases. It was on December 2021 when the Philippines recorded only 3 digits. This was the situation during the pre-Omicron surge. According to Octa Research, COVID-19 cases in the country are still expected to drop by mid-March.
Well, we're projecting that cases will either continue to decrease, although baka bumagal na yung rate of decrease, or baka mag-plateau na rin siya at around, but right now it's around 1,000 cases per day. So kahit mag-plateau siya, again, it's not really going to be a public health concern. Pero we're actually projecting that it will continue to decrease, hopefully down to around 500 cases per day sometime March, or by mid-March.
Currently, the country has 5% positivity rate. This is the World Health Organization's benchmark that COVID-19 transmission is controlled and there's enough COVID-19 testing in the country. The epicenter of pandemic in the country, National Capital Region, and 38 other areas will be put to Alert Level 1 tomorrow. However, the DOH said the transition to Alert Level 1 doesn't mean the COVID-19 pandemic is over.
Hindi pa ho tapos ang pandemya. Hindi pa rin po tayo dumarating dun sa sinasabi nating endemic state. Na andito po ngayon tayo sa level ng ating sitwasyon kung saan we are transitioning dito po sa gusto nating marating na new normal.
The DOH also emphasized COVID-19 is not yet in an endemic state.
Ang endemic state din hindi nangangahulugan na ang virus ay naging mas mild o ang virus ay nawala. Ang ibig sabihin po ng endemic state, ang virus ay naandyan na, kasama na po natin dito sa ating buhay. Ngunit, acceptable na po ang mga numero ng ating mga kaso, acceptable na rin po para sa ating society.
According to Malacanang, the country is still battling against COVID-19.
Tagumpay mang may tuturing ang ating pagsampa sa Alert Level 1. Hindi pa panahon para magdiwang. Kailangan pa rin po nating maging responsable sa ating sarili, sa ating pamilya, at sa ating komunidad.
Authorities remind the public that wearing a face mask, proper ventilation in public areas, and COVID-19 vaccination are needed to eventually cut the COVID-19 transmission in the Philippines. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines posted 951 new COVID-19 cases, the lowest so far this year. The latest figure pushed the cumulative tally to 3,661,997 cases and 52,179 active cases. Of the active infections, 528 are asymptomatic, 47,157 are mild, 2,779 are moderate, 1,417 are severe, and 298 are in critical condition. Total recoveries rose to 3,553,367 after 1,717 more patients recovered from the viral disease. COVID-19 related deaths reached 56,451 with 50 new fatalities. The DOH noted that all labs were operational on February 26, 2022, but 5 laboratories were not able to submit their data on time. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has topped 135,451,292, while the deaths have surged to 5,949,819, according to the Johns Hopkins University.
More jobs are projected to resume or open as quarantine restrictions in the National Capital Region and other provinces downgrade to Alert Level 1, according to the Department of Trade and Industry. Janice Henta reports.
The easing of quarantine classification to Alert Level 1 in the National Capital Region and other provinces would allow more businesses to hire more employees for their operations. According to Department of Trade and Industry Undersecretary Ruth Castelo, the country could generate about 500,000 jobs in the first batch of the escalation of restrictions. Starting tomorrow, Metro Manila and other provinces will be subject to Alert Level 1 classification, which will last until March 15 or depending on the decision of the government if it will be extended. Alert Level 1 is the most relaxed quarantine setting in the country, allowing business establishments to operate at full operational capacity as long as minimum public health standards are followed. Meanwhile, some establishments are preparing their staff and places for the expected increase of customers.
Naka-ready naman na kami for full capacity na both alfresco tsaka sa dining. Pero naka-establish pa rin yung mga safety protocol namin, like yung contact tracing sa mga customers, as well as yung mga floor direction namin sa restaurant. Yun nga lang, kailangan pa rin mag-present ng mga customer yung 18 and above ng kanilang vaccination card or yung certificate ng vaccination.
Pero based pa rin po yun sa physical distancing natin. Tapos may sanitation pa rin kung saan bago pumasok ang ating mga customers. Meron tayong child-friendly zone. Lagi pa rin naka-face mask. Kapag fully vaccinated, pwedeng i-cater natin sa loob. Pero pagka hindi, sa alfresco ang dining nila.
The DTI reminded the public to follow the health protocols inside establishments and encouraged the public to visit establishments with safety seals to avoid possible COVID-19 infection. Janice Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. Oil prices continue to spike this week due to the limited supply in the global market. The national government is eyeing to suspend excise tax on fuel. However, the Malacanang said a recommendation from the Department of Finance and Development Budget Coordination Committee is needed too before imposing suspension. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Acting Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Carlo Nograles said the situation on oil prices should be carefully reviewed before laying out possible solutions to help affected Filipinos. The decision to suspend excise tax will depend on the recommendation of the Department of Finance and Development Budget Coordination Committee.
It will have to begin with the recommendation from the Department of Finance at yan naman po ay ang basis ng recommendation ay sa pakikipag-usap, dialogo niya at pag-aaral at pagsusuri ng DBCC. At mula doon, from the DBCC and the Department of Finance, isasapinal ang kanilang recommendations at ibibigay kay Pangulong Duterte. At let's take it from there.
Oil companies are set to increase fuel prices tomorrow with diesel prices climbing up to 80 up to 90 centavos per liter. Gasoline prices are set to increase by 90 to 1 peso per liter. According to the Department of Energy, this is the 9th consecutive price hike in oil prices, which amounted to 10 pesos per liter.
Ito ay isang global concern dahil nga po sabi mo natin magmula ho nung ang pandemic ay nasusolve na at madami na na-vaccinate dito nga sa atin sa Pilipinas, mag-alert level 1 na tayo. Lumalabas na siyempre ang ekonomiya ay tatakbo na o usad, maraming magtatrabaho dun sa mga companies na mas kailangan ng energy at sa transportation sector. Mas nangangailangan tayo ng mga oil products. Kaya dumadami ang demand. Pero at sa buong mundo, ganito rin ang nararanasan nila pero hindi ho nakakasabay ang production.
Meanwhile, the Malacanang assured the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board is now in the process of hearing the requested fare hike of public transportation drivers. Several groups of jeepney drivers previously submitted a petition asking for a 5 peso fare hike to help them recover from the rising fuel prices.
May proseso po tayo dyan, no, na sa ilalim ng LTFRB at per report ng LTFRB ay meron na pong petisyon na na-file, pinoproseso na po ng LTFRB at magkakaroon po ng hearing tungkol po dyan.
The national government previously said the DBCC is prepared to provide 2.5 billion worth of fuel subsidy to public utility vehicle drivers, but it is still in the process of finalizing the guidelines for distribution. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Following an investigation, the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewerage System Regulatory Office, or MWSSRO, concludes to impose millions of pesos of penalties on Maynilad Water Services Incorporated. MWSSRO Chief Regulator Patrick T. cites the unusual and prolonged water service interruptions from December 2021 to February 2022 in their service areas in the south of Metro Manila and parts of Cavite. T explains, based on the evidence gathered, Maynilad breached 15 days of continuous water service interruptions within the supply zone of Maynilad's Putatan Water Treatment Plant. The MWSSRO notes this failure made an impact to the health and welfare of customers within the supply zone.
They were disputing our findings, and they were saying that the cause is because of the water quality in Laguna Lake. But our finding is that it is within the design parameters of the Putatan Water Treatment Plant. So, their excuse is not acceptable. That's why we are penalizing them.
The MWSSRO is on the process of identifying the affected accounts of customers and computing the amount for the water bill rebate effective April. The regulatory office plans to hold a public information drive in the affected areas by March to explain to the affected customers the computation for the rebate. In a statement, Maynilad says it will abide by the MWSS regulatory office's decision to impose a penalty for the service interruptions in the southern part of their service area. Maynilad cites combined effects of algal blooms and prolonged turbidity in Laguna Lake that hamper the water production of the Putatan water treatment plants. It adds most of their affected customers now have uninterrupted supply, citing the improvement of turbidity level of Laguna Lake and treatment process interventions. The water concessionaire adds the water purification process have been more challenging, citing the effects of climate change and chemical pollutants in the lake's raw water. Based on the announcement on their official Facebook page, some parts of Las Piñas, Parañaque, Muntinlupa, and Cavite have been experiencing daily water service interruptions since February 16 until today. According to Maynilad, the water services in the affected areas are expected to go back to normal beginning tomorrow, March 1.
Commission on Elections, or Comelec, will meet the camps of presidential candidates this week. Dante Amento tells us why, live. Good evening, Dante.
Good evening, LC. Commission on Elections spokesperson Director James Jimenez has disclosed that they will brief the camps of the 10 presidential candidates over the format of the Comelec's commissioned debates on March 19, 2022 in Bulacan. Specific rules would be discussed, including the possible recommendations of each camp. Jimenez added, for the sake of the formality, they will have to release a memorandum of understanding which will be subsequently signed by each camp or candidate. The poll body assures the event would be fair and general topics would be given in advance for candidates to study, except the actual questions.
Even in the Pilipinas debates that we held in 2016, we did inform the campaigns about the general topics to be discussed. Hindi naman ito revalida. Okay? Hindi ito everything under the sun and bahala na kami kung ano itatanong namin. Hindi ganoon. We will give the candidates a general idea of what the topics to be discussed are, but what we will not give them are specific questions. Okay? So again, we would like the debates to be fair.
Initial information provided by the Commission, there would be no live audience and only one moderator for the entire debate. Meanwhile, the Vote Filipinas and Comelec launched a profile dashboards for the presidential and vice presidential candidates this morning. The profile dashboard contains the platform, policies, statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth or SALN, and even the past and pending cases of the candidates. The poll body said it would allow the voters to further know their candidates and scrutinize them.
Napakahalaga na mabigyan natin yung mga kababayan natin ng paraan upang mahanap sa isang lugar lahat ng posibleng impormasyon na kakailanganin nila para sa kanilang pagdedesisyon.
And that's our latest live from Quezon City. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Dante Amento, reporting live from Quezon City.
The camp of presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos are still awaiting the response of the Commission on Elections regarding the presidential debate scheduled on March 19. The BBM camp is still unsure if their presidential candidate could attend the said debate. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
There's still no confirmation yet whether presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. will attend the debate which is being organized by the Commission on Elections. This is according to BBM's National Campaign Manager, former MMDA Chairperson Benhur Abalos. Abalos said the poll body has not replied yet to their camp's request to discuss the format of presidential debate on March 19. He echoed the statement of Marcos spokesperson Attorney Vic Rodriguez that they will have to check first with their schedule if Marcos can attend the said debate.
Kaya yung sinasabi ni spokesperson Vic Rodriguez, medyo totoo yun. No? Dahil nga, sumulat kami at wala pa rin namang sagot. Sabi niya, tignan namin sa schedule namin dahil naka-schedule na rin kami.
The former MMDA chief wrote the letter to the Comelec.
Ako inutusan ni BBM, ni ating Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as the National Campaign Manager to write a letter sa lahat ng presidentiable, no? At sa Comelec na pag-usapan ano ang format ng debate.
Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez earlier announced that all presidential candidates, including Marcos Jr., will attend the presidential debate. But Attorney Rodriguez clarified that the attendance of his candidate will only be confirmed if his hectic campaign schedule permits. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Presidential aspirant Manny Pacquiao will focus on his anti-corruption campaign on the kickoff of his term should he be elected as next president of the Philippines. JP Nunez will tell us why live. Yes, JP?
Yes, from the standard bearer for the presidential race, Senator Manny Pacquiao sees continued poverty in the country is due to government corruption. Pacquiao reiterates if elected, he will focus his first 3 months of his term to fight corruption in the government office. He also aims to establish mega prison facility, and there will be a massive auditing of government funds and intensive investigation among public officials.
Kaya nga sabi ko sa'yo, mega prison eh. Kasi from national government down to local government, papaulit natin lahat. Kasi wala tayong tunay na pagbabago makikita kung nandyan lagi ang mga korap. Sa first 3 months na yon na inahabol na natin, nire-review natin, ino-audit na natin lahat ng mga ginagawa nilang kalukuhan dyan sa gobyerno at matinding investigation na yun sa lahat ng mga nagnanakaw.
Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission is one of the first government office he wants to empower to execute his fight against corruption. In a presidential debate organized by CNN Philippines last night, Pacquiao was the lone presidential candidate to first investigate the Department of Health while others decided for the Bureau of Customs. but the senator clarifies that he wants a simultaneous investigation among all government offices once he takes the seat.
Isa lang yung tinanong hindi ako satisfied dun sa isa Gusto ko marami. Kasi kung isa-isa, sunod isa naman, abutan tayo ng siyam-siyam. Gusto ko sabay-sabay yung lahat.
He also admitted last night that he was offered a commission from alleged government funds while he was a congressman, but he refused to take the offer. Earlier today, Team Pacquiao conducts campaign motorcade rally in Pasig and Marikina City. LC, his running mate for vice presidential race Lito Atienza, was still not present due to recent knee operation after sprain injury, but he was expected to rejoin in the campaign rallies in the coming weeks. That is our latest live. Back to you, LC.
Thank you, JP Nunez, for that live report.
Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso eyes moratorium against public utility vehicle modernization program. The presidential bet of Acción Democrático would also deal with ending contractualization issues at a later time. Asher Cadapan Jr. details why live. Yes, Asher.
Arlene, the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program adds financial burden to operators and drivers as it obliged them to buy new PUVs at their expense. The program was launched by the Department of Transportation in 2017 to phase out old PUVs primarily for the safety and convenience of passengers. But Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso says he wants to suspend the program under his watch should he succeed in the 2022 elections.
Yung modernization plan, pumanatag na kayo, moratorium na yan para hindi na kayo magasusan sa bagong sasakyan.
Dumagoso, however, vows to carefully study the necessity of increasing PUV fares. The Manila City Mayor explains he needs to balance the demands of drivers and the impact to the passengers. Meanwhile, the Acción Democrático standard bearer explains that contractualization may be useful in the middle of the pandemic to sustain livelihoods and businesses. With this, he stands by its initial plan of putting an end to contractualization in the second year of his presidency or earlier.
Ang gusto ko lang, okay, while pangarap ng ating mga manggagawa, yung maging permanent sila, pero gustuin ko man, bilang galing katulad ng tatay ko, pero also I'm a very pragmatic man. There is pandemic, marami nagsarang negosyo, the more magsasara negosyo, the more maraming magugutom na tao.
Arlene, today some labor and transport groups as well as a couple of fraternities officially endorsed Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso as their presidential bet for the May 9 elections. The Acción Democrático is scheduled to conduct campaign caravan in the cities of Malabon and Caloocan tomorrow. Arlene?
Thank you, Asher Cadapan Jr. reporting live. 13 Filipinos who have been evacuated from Ukraine to Poland are set to fly back home to the Philippines tonight or tomorrow morning. DFA Undersecretary for Migrant Workers Sara Lu Ariola says the Filipinos are currently staying in a hotel in Poland's capital, Warsaw, after they were welcomed by Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. at the border. She adds the 13 Filipinos are just awaiting their COVID-19 RT-PCR test results. According to Philippine Ambassador to Poland, Leia Basinang Ruiz, the transfer of Filipinos from Ukraine's capital, Kiev, to Lviv was challenging due to limited public transport.
Medyo talagang suspenseful talaga itong repatriation ng ating mga tao kasi in the first place, yung naghanap po kami ng bus mula sa Kiev to Lviv, medyo nahirapan ho talaga kami since hindi ho natin masigurado na yung sasakyan from Kiev to Lviv. Ina-advisean natin ang mga Filipinos na at the first opportunity they can, pumunta na po sa train station and abisuhan lang po ang embassy na nandun sila at para masigurado.
Ariola says 6 Filipinos have returned here in the country last week. Meanwhile, 6 Filipinos have been evacuated from Ukraine to Moldova, as well as 8 seafarers from MVS Breeze, while 4 have been escorted to Romania and 8 Filipinos to Hungary. Ariola vows to maintain close coordination with Filipinos who refuse to evacuate to secure their safety in Ukraine. At least 10 Filipinos are currently in Lviv, waiting to be transported to Poland. Philippine embassy teams are also waiting for other Filipinos who are on their way to Lviv for evacuation.
What we're trying to do is to be in constant contact with the Filipinos who choose to stay and at least know where they are, and also at the same time give them assistance or care packages kung kinakailangan po nila.
Basinang Ruiz advises all Filipinos who are seeking evacuation assistance to contact the Philippine embassies for them to be escorted to safety. Filipinos may get in touch with the Philippine Embassy in Poland via email at warsaw.pe@dfa.gov.ph or via hotline at +48 604 357 396 or +48 694 491-663. They may also contact the Philippine Embassy in Hungary through their emergency hotline +36 302 02 1760 or through assistance to Nationals Officer at +36 30 074 5656 or +63 966 340 4725. They may also reach Consul Victor Gaina in Moldova through +37 369 870 870 or via email at victor.gaina@phconsulate.md or consul@phconsulate.md. Filipinos may also reach the official Facebook accounts of the DFA and OFW Help PH.
An opportunity for discussion between Russian and Ukrainian delegates have opened. However, Russian nuclear weapons remain on high alert. Ruth Bahe will tell us the details live. Good evening, Ruth.
Yes, good evening, Elsie. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered nuclear weapons on high alert, getting ready for an assault on Ukraine. In a televised statement, Putin reasoned his intentions for an aggressive attack as a defensive strategy against NATO and other top officials. While Putin's speech is a topic of concern, U.S. Press Secretary Jen Psaki and the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba have labeled it as a tactic to scare the people of Ukraine, one that he has since been using before the invasion. Amidst the order for high alert, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Russia and Ukraine will come to meet at the border in Belarus near the Pripyat River. It is anticipated that Foreign Minister Kuleba will meet Russian officials Monday morning local time. Currently, Ukraine has taken back its second largest city, Kharkiv, while Russian soldiers have moved down to the south of Ukraine. Gunfire in the streets of Kharkiv have broken out, while the capital Kyiv remains quiet after early morning blast. Foreign Minister Kuleba issued an update on the war with Russia yesterday, addressing their progress.
Ukraine downed 46 Russian war aircraft, 26 helicopters. We destroyed 146 tanks, 706 armored vehicles, 49 cannons, 1 missile complex Buk, the same one that was used to shut down MH17 flight in 2014 when Russia killed hundreds of innocent lives. We also destroyed 30 vehicles, 60 cisterns, 2 drones and 2 boats. Russian losses of troops are at roughly 4,300 killed in action and wounded in action. Hundreds of Russian soldiers became prisoners of war. This data is preliminary because battles are ongoing and the exact numbers fluctuate.
Meanwhile, Kuleba also addressed the International Court of Justice to hold Russia accountable and accused them of war crimes for their military aggression. Elsie?
Thank you, Ruth Bahe, for that live report.
Emergency flood alerts were issued to some parts of Queensland, Australia, due to what has been described as an unpredictable cyclone that smashed the state. Maeve and Dog will give us the details live. Yes, Maeve.
Harleen, over the weekend, the southeast part of Queensland was battered by a severe weather, which flooded up to 18,000 homes across the region. Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk characterized the event as a rain bomb and compared the flood peaks to the 2011 major flooding.
In 2011, the flood peak in Brisbane was 4.46. The flood peak is 3.85 and now falling. It is still a significant event. And I think everyone would agree, no one has seen this amount of rain in such a short period of time over our entire southeast catchment zone.
At the latest, 8 people have died, while authorities hold fears over several people who were reported to have gone missing in floodwaters. More than 1,000 schools are currently closed. The Premier also reported that about 1,544 people are currently situated in evacuation centers, with more being opened by local councils. The Queensland Fire and Emergency Services reported 9,000 SES jobs and 565 swift water rescues received and conducted across the state as of today. The conditions are expected to ease as the weather system moves further down into the state of New South Wales, but the floodwaters are likely to remain for a couple of days. Councillor Paul Tully from Ipswich City Council has emphasized that residents who were impacted by the flood can apply for disaster recovery payments, and has this to say regarding our fellow Filipinos in the area.
There are a lot of Filipinos in the Goodna area. Some of their houses have been flooded or very close to being flooded. We're doing everything we can. There's now federal government money to assist every person who's been affected, $1,000 Australian for each adult, and there will be state government funding available as well. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that the water will keep going down. It will be another 2 or 3 days, but there's been a lot of support in the community.
Meanwhile, Harleen, evacuation orders were also issued to a dozen of locations in New South Wales as the floodwaters are rapidly rising. 14,000 people were affected so far, and people were seen stranded on their rooftops. Harleen?
Thank you, Maeve and Dog, reporting live.
International scientists released 2 major studies revealing the site of origin of the coronavirus pandemic. Marvi Delphine will give us the details live. Go ahead, Marvi.
Elsie, in contrast to the theories supported by the United States right-wing campaigners that COVID-19 emerged from a government lab in China, the new studies which are yet to be published in journals suggest otherwise. Evolutionary biologist Michael Warraby, co-author on both studies, stated on the paper that the evidences show an extraordinarily clear picture that the pandemic started at the Wuhan market. One study states that the geographical clustering of the earliest known cases and the proximity of positive environmental samples to live animal vendors suggest that the pandemic originated from the Wuhan seafood wholesale market. The study further states that the virus has most likely started with at least 2 animal transmissions, a raccoon dog or another mammal, before it spread to humans. In the other study, scientists stated that understanding the circumstances that led to pandemics is critical to their prevention. The issue of China's coronavirus culpability has become a topic of debate, particularly in the United States. Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the chief medical advisor to U.S. President Joe Biden, has been accused by Republican Senator Rand Paul of lying to Congress about the country's role in funding research in Wuhan, China. The studies, which were released on Saturday, were co-authored by scientists in the US, South Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, the UK, Canada, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Elsie?
Thank you, Marvi Delphine, reporting live from Australia.
people in Liberia who are deaf and mute are having a hard time in making a living. They often rely on neighbors for food, but help came their way, giving them the opportunity to open a small business and have their health checked.
David and Eva Colley are a deaf couple, but despite their disabilities, they strive to survive on their own. Eva used to be a vendor.
Weeks back, a month ago, she was selling plenty, but then people will eat the plenty and don't give her money. And she can't talk. So sometimes you will find out that she will jack the person, or they will come in a fight, and then the person will explain more than her, and she will only be crying.
David, though both deaf and mute, knows how to sweat in order to eat. He used to be a construction worker.
Okay, me, I come for where? Me, I come for where? I'm where? So, I pay people, I put to my market, I'm getting the people came and away from more. Don't wait to call me Anako.
But then I noticed that they don't talk. Yeah, they don't talk at all, and they are not doing anything. So most of the time when they need food or anything, they will come to the community people that read, but most especially me, they will come there. They will write on a piece of paper, "We are hungry 2 days now, we have not eaten." Then if I have rice, I will get them some rice. If I have Vita oil, most of the time when I buy rice, I will get in few cups.
Eva wishes to have a livelihood once again, so they would no longer have to beg for food from their neighbors and to give their child her needs. And with God's help and mercy, help came their way. Eva received checkup and medicine for her cataract, and they also met with a doctor to have their ears checked.
For David, the chances is 50-50. My observation was for the right ear, he has 50-50 of chances to hear, because I think it's clearer than the left ear. From my observation, the left ear is damaged. Favor his wife or the lady, yeah, her one, the both ears is okay. It's just the other one will take time.
A doctor also checked their baby's health.
So, Mama, it's your, my people, yeah, tell you, home.
And now they can open a small business. The deaf and the mute are also human beings. The deaf and the mute can also feel. The deaf and the mute can also feel love. And it is written, "Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor preferring one another." God's love is what MCGI spreads and shares to our fellow men, no matter the color, race, or language, even to those who speak the sign language, because MCGI cares.
Before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 30. It says, "A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones."
And those are the reasons behind the news, February 28, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Elsie Marcos.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am Herlene Delgado. We serve the people, we give glory to God.